Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We're bringing Tim Kintz back on the show. Tim is the president of Kintz Automotive Group. Tim, welcome back to the show. All right, Tim. So, got a whole lot to talk about today. So, of course, we're going to talk about Kintz Group and all the work that you're doing there with dealerships and automotive groups. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about the upcoming book that will be launching. I'm really excited to have you in that book. For those that maybe have caught some of the previous or haven't caught some of the previous episodes I've done with Tim, he's also the author of Fearless: Leading and Managing Unbreakable Teams, and he's also the author of Frictionless: Closing and Negotiating with Purpose. So we got an expert in sales on the line, and we'll get this episode started, Tim, the way that we start them all. I already know you know the drill with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Tim, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Tim, what mission matters to you?
Really helping salespeople and leaders really achieve their potential. I think so many people have more potential. I think so many people want to get better. I just don't know if there's the leadership out there to help leaders of leaders and leaders of followers. And being a guy that started out washing cars and worked my way all the way up to running a dealer group, I know how tough it can be, especially in the sales industry. No matter what you're selling, you get kicked in the teeth on a regular basis. We fail often more than we succeed, and having somebody out there that's going to give them tips, that's going to lift them up, that's going to give them the hope that there's more out there that they can keep getting better. That's ultimately, man, that's what we're trying to achieve at Kintz Group.
So I wanna stick in those early years a little bit longer because I feel like, a lot of people, especially those that may be getting started in sales at this point in their career, they may feel like they're supposed to have it, all figured out. As you were kind of progressing through your career, I don't know how far back you want to go, whether it was to washing the cars or beginning to sell them or working in management, but like how did you know that like this idea of sales was something that you could learn, that you could get better at, and that it was a real skill, not something that you just tried?
Man, it takes a while. It's I can't tell you how many times in my first probably 2 to 3 years, maybe a little more than that I came in thinking, I need to find a new job, looking in the classifieds for other jobs. Man, I don't know if sales is for me. I mean, that self-doubt runs through everybody. And looking at, man, maybe I should drive a truck for UPS for a guaranteed income because I was on 100% commission, and maybe I didn't make a lot of money. Maybe I was going to go, heck, I remember going and interviewing to be a police officer because I thought that would be a better guaranteed income on a regular basis. And then it's at a certain point, if you have that drive, if you can push through the pain, through the failures, if you can embrace failures and learn from them, then there'll be that aha moment. It'll be that paradigm shift where you're like, you know what? I'm going to get better. I'm going to stick to this. I can do this. And then once you have that mindset that you're committed, I always say that in sales, you've got the chicken and the pig, right? Well, when you sit down and eat breakfast and you got bacon and eggs, who's more committed to that breakfast, the chicken or the pig?
Yeah.
Obviously, chicken just donated, the pig's all in. Well, once you get committed to being that pig, being all in, that's when you can really level up. That's when it becomes a career instead of just a job, right? Jobs stand for just over broke. You're going to be living paycheck to paycheck as long as you treat whatever you're doing as a job. If you look at it as a career, now you're looking past 1 week. You're looking past this month. You're looking long term on where you want to be. You have a purpose every day when you come in. And I think it took me 3 or 4 years, and it took me having the right managers and leaders around me. And once that happened, it was just something once you get in, you can't get out type of thing if you're good at it.
Yeah. And going to that idea of leadership within the sales side of things. So there's going to be, one side of the coin that are, the people that are doing the sales themselves, and then the leadership side, which you mentioned, training leaders of leaders, right? Like, how do you know if that kind of leadership route, how do you feel if that's for you? Like, is there any signs you see?
Sacrifice. Do you have it in you to really sacrifice the good of you for the good of your people? Right?
Mm,
Because everybody's not that way. It's like in sports.
mhm,
A great player doesn't make a great leader. I mean, if it was in the corporate world, in sales, so often we promote our good salespeople into
mhm.
management. Well, because they were a good salesperson.
Yeah.
So they're totally opposite mindsets. And
Mm,
I mean, if that was the case, the Kansas City Chiefs today would announce that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs.
yeah. Mhm,
Well, they would never do that because they would lose results on the field, right?
mm,
Maybe
mhm,
he'd be a great leader, maybe not. But often great leaders aren't necessarily the greatest top
mhm,
producers.
mhm,
Often they're the ones that understand that it's about the people, right? And it's
mhm.
about the process. And everybody's not going to be a superstar. My job is to help you be the best you possibly can. And
Mm,
it really comes down to, are you willing to give more than you get?
yeah. And one of the things that you brought up is the idea of sales as a career. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit more? Because I'll tell you, on my when I started in sales right out of college, I was thinking to myself, like, this is something I'll just kind of try. I didn't think of it as a career. I didn't actually even know it was a career, honestly. I was in the mortgage business. I just started, right out of college, and I'm like, oh, this is a good way to make some money. And I was just hooked at a really probably early point when I realized that, this is something like special. It's something different. To me, it was like a superpower. I'm like, wow, this is like somebody can tell you maybe no at first, but then that can be turned to a yes with a little bit of education or with a little bit of, and you can do a lot of good with people, but how many people are going to go past that first no? And so to me, I always looked at it, and I still look at it. It's kind of like a superpower to me. And it is a game of sorts as well, but especially when you're providing value. Like if I'm providing value to the other person's life, which that's a given, then I feel like there's just so much that people can do good through sales and through that. But maybe talk to me a little bit about, that idea of sales as a career, like elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that go into sales, kind of like you said, that you have to believe in your product, right? No
Yeah.
matter what you're, and if you believe in your product, then it's almost the mindset of, we joked around, called the Arkansas close, but where it's, you'd be an idiot not to get this product. I mean, you're not an idiot, are you? Not that you say that,
Yeah.
but if that's what your belief is, that you're crazy not to get this. You've done your research. You have a need. My
Yeah.
job here is to help fulfill that need. And I'm passionate. And I believe that, yes, this is the right car for you. This is the right furniture. This is the right product for you. And I think you have to believe in it so much that you're willing, you're willing to convince that customer.
Mm,
Obviously, we're there for the customer, and you want to do the right thing for them. The money's going to follow. I think if you get in sales and all you're doing is chasing the money, then you're setting yourself up to fail because you're never going to catch it, right?
mm,
It's always going to be elusive. But I think if you think of the customer first, if you're thinking delivering an exceptional experience with every customer,
mhm.
then you can be great at sales. It's the old saying, are great salespeople made or born?
Yeah.
Obviously at some point they were all born, but I think yes, there's characteristics in people that make them better at sales.
Mm,
Maybe it was their environment growing up, who they hung around, what they've been exposed to, but I think not everybody. Okay,
yeah.
so you can leave all the comments out on, well, I know lots of people that would never be good at sales. Look,
Yeah.
there's a percentage that would never be good at sales, but if you're committed to sales and if you like helping others,
Mhm,
sales, it can be the best in the world. I always say that selling can be the easiest high paying job you ever have, or it
mhm,
can be the hardest low paying job you ever have. It
mm,
really comes down to how good you are, how committed you are to your skill,
yeah.
and how much you keep really improving yourself on a regular basis. And,
Mm,
you know, most people, like you said, you got out of college, you ended up in sales, right?
yep.
It's most of us, you didn't go to college thinking you were going to be a salesperson, right?
Yep.
it's kind of like Denny's or IHOP, right? You never make reservations there. You just end up there at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Same thing in sales. But once you get in it and once you're committed and once you hone your craft,
Mm-hmm.
then you can't imagine doing anything different. I could never imagine punching the clock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was 100% commission. If we didn't sell anything when I started, you didn't get minimum wage.
Yeah.
And then when they started having to pay minimum wage, if you got a check for minimum wage because you didn't sell enough, that was your last check. I mean, that was just kind of how it is. But I think really, always remember in sales, it's not about, don't chase the money. Man, be there for the customers. Customers are there for a reason. No matter what you're selling, understand the customer, help solve. It's either a pain point or a pleasure point that you're filling with customers. There's either something positive that they're upgrading to, or they're having issues with what they have and they need something better. Give them a solution and believe in that solution, and you're going to close a hell of a lot of deals, no matter what it is.
So let's spend some time. I want to definitely go further into this discussion and maybe even provide the audience with some tools, like some things that they can think about when it comes to sales and something that they can walk away with. But before we do that, I do want to take a sidebar here for a moment or two and get into Kintz Group. I don't want to assume, I know you've been on the show before, but all of our new listeners and visitors, I don't want to assume they've seen those episodes. So maybe just give us an overview of Kintz Group just to get us going there.
Yeah, we're a full service training and consulting company that focuses mainly on the retail automotive dealerships, whether it's sales or management. And we do in dealership type training. We have open seminars. And I like to bring fun and competition into dealerships. I think if you're having fun and you're having friendly competitions, it's always a great time. That's why when we do our open workshops, we do them at Topgolf all the time, just because everybody can get out, hit balls during lunch instead of being at some old hotel next to an airport that was built 40 years ago and everybody being bored. It's always about having fun and giving the tools, the scripts, the mindset to whether you're a manager or a salesperson, but getting them really to enhance their career and enhancing the customer experience. You know, with the auto industry, we've been through, the pandemic brought on massive amount of changes, especially with all the digital. And it's, there's a lot of guys out there that are lost as last year's Easter egg, trying to figure out how am I going to survive. And that's what we're here for. And we've got support staff that call salespeople in dealerships every day, and we're constantly there for them. So we have online training platforms, and you name the products, we have it for them, games, contests, competitions. But it's really about bringing the fun and competition back to the dealership so we can deliver an exceptional experience for the customer while become more profitable.
Now, one of the things you mentioned is kind of like, post-COVID and like what happens after that, because when we were in the pandemic, I can tell you, I have a couple of friends that bought cars and they were just lucky to get them delivered and they were just lucky to be there. And I can tell you that it was almost like, hey, take it or leave it. Like, this is what we got. And if you needed a car, you were kind of stuck. So in my opinion, I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe some of the people that started were in that part, like they weren't necessarily having to deal with too much competition or sales. There was a huge shortage of inventory. Again, correct me if I'm wrong in any of this stuff, and the people that wanted the demand for cars was still there. So now that we're on the other side of this, I feel like there's probably a huge need for some sales training and some retooling. Yeah.
It's insane. We had our convention earlier this year, and it was the first time I ever remember having dealers walking in our booth saying, "Can you help us?" Wow. Because it was demand outweighed supply. Now, as supply is getting better, now it's depending on the manufacturer. There's still shortages with certain manufacturers, Toyota, Honda. Some of the Highlines still are a little bit lower, but we're by the end of this year, we're going to be back to pre-pandemic inventory levels, and it's really going to come down. It's going to come down to the experience that you give the customer, and you have to give a good deal, and it's got to be good value. And there's so many things that are going to go into it that, face it, you didn't have to. It was, Adam, you want to buy this car? Yeah. What's the price? This is the price. Well, can you give me a discount? No. Okay. Well, if you don't buy this, somebody's going to be in here in an hour and buying it. you had the inventory, you were selling the cars. Now it's normalizing is what I call it. And
Mm.
now it really comes down to how good are you? And it's been 3 years for the most part. It's kind of like the dog that caught the car, right? Now what?
Yeah.
So it's you got to challenge yourself to keep getting better. And look, just because you know how to swing a golf club and hit a ball, if you hadn't golfed in 3 years, doesn't mean you're going to be any good when you go out there to hit that ball. You might know what to do, but
Yeah.
doing and knowing what to do are going to be two different things at that point.
Yeah, we're not getting into golf right now, Tim. I refuse. I know, and it doesn't matter if I go out there, it still doesn't work. But some things I didn't intuitively think I'm supposed to be doing, but I have a lot of fun though. There you go. I do keep the fun in it.
But you can sit there and watch 100 hours of how to hit a golf ball
Absolutely.
and go out on the course and still suck.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing. I could watch 100 hours on how to sell, but if I don't practice and if I don't get the words coming out of my mouth and if I don't say it out loud, it doesn't matter. And I think the difference, in practice for like hitting golf balls, my son's 13. I love going to batting cage and hitting baseballs. Hitting golf balls is fun. Shooting free throws is fun because I get immediate feedback. I know, am I doing good or not doing good? In selling skills, it's boring, mundane, it's repetitive. There's nothing fun about practicing scripts, but you have to trust that if I practice and I learn it, it's going to work when I'm with the customer because it's always a lagging indicator. You get lagging results from practicing sales skills. And that, I think, is the hardest part of getting good at sales. Do you have that drive and that passion to practice between customers and not practice on customers?
As you mentioned, like there's a huge need right now. Like what are some of the things that you're seeing in the dealerships and really that you're teaching? Like what are some of the programs and just some of the things you're doing to help them retool like right now?
I hate saying this, back to the basics.
Yeah.
I hate saying back to basics, but it really is back to the basics. I mean, little things like doing a walk around on a car. Yeah. Well, they couldn't do a walk around on a car because they didn't have any cars. It was selling off a computer screen or a sheet of paper. So they haven't had to or been able to do interactive presentations, right? So that's very boring to work on, but it's critical because a presentation on a vehicle or furniture or a house, anything, I have to create mental ownership before the customer will take physical or financial ownership. And if I'm not creating that mental ownership, then it's hard to take physical or financial ownership of your product, no matter what that product is. And it's something that we have to keep practicing. Closing. They haven't had to close. They haven't had to overcome objections to the customer saying your price is too high, or I can get it at a dealership for $500 less down the street, right? That hasn't been part of what they've dealt with. Now they're going to have to deal with it. Interest rates. Interest rates have tripled. Now all of a sudden they're going to have to deal with higher interest rates and higher payments. It's just a math problem at that point. But even though it's just a math problem, there still has to be that mental ownership, the buy-in. A customer needs to want to buy my car or my product more than I want to sell it. That's one of the golden rules of negotiating is they need to want to buy it more than you want to sell it. Not that you don't want to sell your product, but I need to create that desire from the customer. And I think things like walk-arounds, closing, overcoming objections, focusing on the logical part in the negotiation and not being emotionally attached to the deal, right? Those are all things that are so critical as salespeople and management. Quite frankly, look, management lost its mojo. Managers being involved in deals and having to do one-on-ones and hold training, right? I haven't had to hold training because the hell was I training on as a manager? All the skill sets with salespeople or managers.
We're not going to talk about this too much today because, well, for everybody watching this, just so you know, we'll be bringing Tim back onto the show for a second part of this 2-part interview. But we got a book coming up together, which I'm really excited. We've been working on this, I don't know, the past year now, I believe but it's coming together. I'm really excited. We're not quite out yet, but we will be pretty soon. And then we'll bring you back on the show, of course. But speaking high level, what are some of the things you plan to present in the upcoming book?
It's really leadership. Right. And how to really maximize everybody's potential. right?
Mm.
Because that's always the hard thing. It's, we always hear that you can't find good people. It's hard to hire good people. And that's
Mhm.
true. It's hard to hire good people and it's hard to find good people.
Mhm.
But a lot of us have good people. We just haven't spent the time to develop good people,
Mm.
right? Develop. Are they good people? Yes. Are they good salespeople or good employees? Maybe not. How do they
Mhm.
become that way? Training, right? It's like John Maxwell always says, how do kids spell love? Time. How
Mm.
do our people know that we care about them? Time, right? And it's
Yep.
really all about how do I spend more time with my people, and not just spending time, not just to check a box that, yep, I spent time with them, but is
Yeah.
it quality time? I have managers ask, how do I know if I do a good one-on-one? How do I know that it was effective? It's
Mm.
simple. Is that salesperson or whoever I did a one-on-one with, are they better at the end of it than they were at the beginning?
Mm.
And I think that's things we have to look for, because it
Mhm.
is hard to find good people. It's hard to get people right now. There's a lot
Yeah.
of people not working. There's a lot of people that already have jobs. How do we attract them? And then once we attract them, how do we retain them? How do
Yeah.
we keep them there? And not just keep them there, but how do we keep them motivated?
Mm.
Right? How do you motivate the unmotivated? And it's just look around, man. Go out to restaurants, go to stores right now. How many people are you interacting with that aren't motivated? The
Yeah.
service, you feel like you're interrupting them to order your dinner,
Yeah.
right? I see that really as an opportunity for businesses and leaders that want to gain market share and dominate right
Mm.
now. I think we're at a paradigm shift. I think we're at that kind of like outliers that when
Mhm.
Malcolm Gladwell talks about the tipping points when
Yeah.
people really succeeded. And I truly believe we're at a tipping point that if you look at your people, the right people is your greatest asset, right? People
Mhm.
always say that people are your greatest asset. No, the right people are your greatest
Yeah.
asset. It's not just having warm bodies, but I truly believe that if you stop managing your department, stop managing your company, and start managing the individuals within your company,
Mhm.
that's when you're going to gain market share. That's when you'll dominate your industry.
Mm. Yeah, I can what you're talking about walking into a restaurant or something else. I feel like everybody watching this has had this experience. You're right. Like I can think about going into one restaurant or going to some other places where I'm like, man, am I bothering them? Like, should I have just gone and ordered this on Amazon or somewhere else? And then going into some other stores or some other places, even restaurants, and you get this other experience, and you're like, oh, this is why I still like going out to eat. This is the experience. This is what. So who's going to get my business, one versus the other, especially long term? It's obvious, right?
Right, right. They all give you the bill, and it's got the built-in 10, 15, 20, 25, 30% tips already. You just have to push a button now. You don't even have to do a math problem.
Yeah.
And you got to ask yourself, why are you asking for a tip? You sucked. It's to ensure proper service or whatever, people say on tips. Well,
Yeah.
let's 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 make it merit based, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, man, you take your industry, you take your business, and you start
Mhm.
really caring about the customers. That's when
Mhm.
you'll kick ass. That's when you're going to grow, man. That's what
Yeah.
it takes right now in this world. I think people want that service, and they either want convenience, the Amazon style, or they want
Mhm.
exceptional service.
Yeah.
That
For sure.
that's pretty much where we're at.
All right, Tim. So I can't let you get off the line without us talking about fearless and frictionless. So let's got to get some plugs to the book there because they're definitely, I want my audience to pick them up. I'll be putting links in the show notes too for these books. So maybe tell us a little bit more about them, please.
So Frictionless, Closing and Negotiating with Purpose was my
Mhm.
first book. It was an Amazon bestseller. My timing sucked on it because it launched at the convention February of 2020. And
Mm.
it's about face-to-face selling and closing and negotiating. And then, pandemic hit and we couldn't sell face-to-face. But
Mm.
it's it's focused on the car business, but the principles in there, the golden rules in negotiating, all
Yep.
that applies no matter what the industry is. If you're in
Mhm.
sales, the words may be different, but the techniques and the mindset and strategies are all the same. And
Mm.
I think to me, it's one of those books that you're going to be highlighting, underlining. You're going to
Mhm.
have it dog-eared. and using on a regular basis. I think it's a must-have for people in sales. And again, if you're not in the car business, it still applies. 100% doesn't, but 75% of it's going to apply no matter what you do.
Yeah. And you said, 1 second though, you said it was bad timing per the original launch, but now it seems like perfect timing for where we're at right now today, right? We're going back to face-to-face. So now it's even needed more so even than it was back then.
The relaunch. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's probably more important now than it was in 2020 when it launched, because of, you might have been in sales for 20 years, but it's the same thing. You hadn't actually had to hit a golf ball, right? You just know how to hit the golf ball. Same mindset. It's there. It's got all the tools to get you back on track, and then if you're new, to help you get on track, to know what to do. So
now, unlike then, there's this opportunity to take some real market share, because those that aren't doing things like this or aren't retooling their leaders or their sales skills or all these other things, like you have an opportunity to gain some ground too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, frictionless. Let's get into that one.
Fearless. Frictionless was closing, negotiating. Fearless is leading and managing unbreakable teams. Originally, I wanted to write Fearless first because I got to fix management before I can fix salespeople. The only reason I did Frictionless, the closing, negotiating one, was because the need for salespeople and to have real tools on closing and negotiating was greater than managers' need for being better leaders. I mean, they both kind of are important, but I wanted to get something in salespeople's hands in case they didn't have good managers or good leaders. Fearless, though, is that management and leadership Bible to me. This is there's not a lot of platitudes, not a lot of characteristics of a great leader, and there's a lot of great books out there on leadership, and I love them and I read them and I get it, but so often they're not necessarily real world, right? It's okay, I understand how these characteristics are so important for me as a leader, but how do I handle that when I show up in the morning and I got 48 emails, I got 3 upset customers, I got an owner screaming at me, I got a salesperson called in sick because his daughter's sick, got 2 guys there that are hungover, I've got the service manager screaming at me because we got used cars that need to get fixed, and now I'm supposed to have good character, right? And yes, we are, but this is more of your day-to-day, how do you become that great leader? It's all about really 4 key skills for managing. Is you need to be able to lead, manage, train, and coach. How do you lead people? You manage things, you train for knowledge, and you coach for skills. Those 4 areas in any industry as a manager or leader are critical. And I wanted to make it a real world book that when you read it, it's easy read, and it's for every manager out there that wants to motivate their team, really, because it's so, I think in the past, motivating people was just throwing a bunch of money at them, and that was going to motivate them. Everybody's not that way now, right? There's different things make people tick, and it's learning how to figure out what motivates each one of your people. You might have 8 salespeople, and all 8 of them have different things that motivate them. It may be, you may have a couple of them motivated by money. You might have a couple that are status. You might have a couple that they're really big in social stuff, and that's what motivates them. How do you tie that into their job so you can get them to level up, so you can motivate them every day when they come in? And that's really what Fearless is all about.
It's great. Well, Tim, great having you on the show. Can't wait to have you back. Once our book comes out, we're going to do a deeper dive into it. But for today, I just have to ask, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for Kintz Group?
Well, we're staying busy. We're a lot of traveling, a lot of classes, a lot of workshops, but I'm in the process of working on book it'll be number 4 now.
Yeah.
With, the Mission Matters book. So we got 3 bestsellers. Now we got to get number 4 going. It's going to be more success, goal-oriented, vision. It's going to speak to each individual on how they can achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve.
Fantastic. And if somebody's watching this and they want to learn more about Kintz Group or to connect with you and your team, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can go to kintzgroup.com. We've got all of our books, everything on there, a lot of articles and stuff, any of the YouTube channels. We have all the social media we're out there on, and just reach out to us and we'll communicate with you. We got a whole team of guys and gals that are here to help.
Fantastic. And we'll put, of course, the website and all that good stuff in the show notes so that our audience can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging in an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, why they do what they do, like what gets them fired up to get up in the morning and to go out there and to make a difference. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Tim, again, it has been a pleasure. Until the next time we get to do this, thanks again for coming on.
My pleasure.